Okay, guys, so now we're going to do problems 10 and 11, and that's to determine what form the following quadratic is in, then rewrite the quadratic in the desired form. So number 10 says that we want to put this quadratic in factored form, and we know that factored form has two sets of parentheses. It's been factored. And now we have to figure out what form this is in to start with. So if y equals -2 times the quantity x plus 3 squared plus 8, this is in vertex form. And we should be able to look that up straight on our study guide. So now, let's deal with this vertex form, and we're just going to start by doing things that we know how to do. So if I have the quantity x plus 3 squared, we know that x plus 3 squared means x plus 3 times x plus 3. Don't forget to bring down the other things. Now, another thing that I noticed is that I have these two sets of parentheses here. And when I have two sets of parentheses side by side, we know that we can FOIL to get rid of those parentheses. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave the -2. I'm going to open a big parenthesis because I'm just going to multiply these out. So remember, FOIL. The first two terms are x times x, which is x squared. The outer two terms is x times 3, which is 3x. The inner two terms, 3 times x, which is also 3x. And then the last two terms, which is x times 3 times 3, which is 9. And don't forget to bring down your plus 8. So now I notice that I have 3x and 3x. So let's go ahead and combine like terms. So we'll come back up here. So I still have y equals, I still have -2, I still have it in big parentheses. But 3x plus 3x is 6x. And I'm going to keep everything else the same. Now, the reason that we had to keep these in parentheses is because of this -2 out front right here. And now I can distribute this -2 into the parentheses. So I have y equals -2 times x squared is -2x squared. -2 times positive 6x was -12x. And -2 times positive 9 will be -18. And then I have my plus 8. And that lets me to combine my terms properly. That way I didn't make a mistake by combining the 9 and the 8, because the 8's outside the parentheses. So now, y equals, let's combine my like terms again, -18 and 8. I have -2x squared minus 12x. And now I have -10. Now, I'm not finished yet because this isn't in factored form. Remember, factored form has two sets of parentheses, but at this point right here, this is standard form. ax squared plus bx plus c. Now we can move through and start trying to get this in factored form. I'm going to slide over a little bit. To get this in factored form, I actually have to factor this quadratic. And the first thing I'm going to do is look right here. I have -2 out front. It's not 1, so we try to find a GCF. And in this case, I have 2, 12, and 10, and when those are all even, so I know that 2 can be my GCF, but it's actually going to be in our best interest to let -2 be the GCF, so we don't have to deal with the negative. So we're going to come up here. I'm going to kick -2 out front. -2x squared divided by -2 leaves me with positive x squared. -12x divided by -2 leaves me with positive 6x. And then -10 divided by -2 leaves me with positive 5. And hopefully this is super easy for us to factor. I'm not even going to put this in the box, because if I look at this, and I know I have to factor it and make two sets of parentheses. When I look at my factors of 5, 5 is a special number. It is prime. I only have one option. So the only way I can make x squared is x times x. 5 is prime, so the only way that I can make 5 is to do 1 times 5, and then to make them add up to positive 6x, they both have to be positive. So my final answer here is y equals negative 2 times x plus 1 times x plus 5. And this is in factored form. Okay, that was my answer here. It's in factored form. And now we're going to kind of go the complete opposite direction. We're going to put this one in vertex form. And I told you guys, if it tells you to put a quadratic in vertex form, those are huge keywords that we need to complete the square. Okay, huge keyword there, complete the square. Now let's figure out what I'm starting with. This right here I'm starting with. They gave me factored form. And if we look at our study guide, we know the very first step in completing the square is to put this in standard form. So I'm going to take f of x equals x minus 7 times x plus 5. And we're going to FOIL this out to get it into standard form. So, FOILing again, x times x. Hopefully by now we all know that that is x squared. Outer, x times 5 is 5x. Inner, negative 7 times x is negative 7x. And last is negative 7 times 5, which is negative 35. When we combine like terms, we're going to get x squared minus 2x minus 35. Now I can start the process of completing the square. So step 2, I'm going to come back up here. I have f of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 35. Remember, our next step is to move the constant. In this case, the constant is 35. So I have to move the constant to the other side and add in my blanks. So I have f of x plus 35 plus a blank equals x squared minus 2x plus a blank. Now we look at our bx term, which is right here. And I got to take half of it. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. And after I half it, we have to square it. So negative 1 squared is positive 1. And that positive 1 is what we're going to put into both of these blanks. So now I have f of x plus 35 plus 1 equals x squared minus 2x plus 1. And remember, we do all this because that makes this right here a perfect square trinomial, and they're really easy to factor. So let's go ahead and simplify. I have f of x, 35 plus 1 is 36, equals, and we'll notice how easy this is to factor, because the only way I can make x squared is, again, x times x. The only way I can make only way I can make 1 is to do 1 times 1. There's no other way. So I have 1 and 1, and then to make 1 and 1 add up to negative 2. They have to both be negative. And remember, PSTs, we were looking for identical factors, which is what we got, so we're good to go. And the last thing we have to do is move the constant back over and simplify. So I have f of x equals, a nice and neat way to write x minus 1 times x minus 1 is x minus 1 squared, kind of going backwards from what we did a minute ago. So x minus 1 squared and then minus 36. This is my vertex form. And just to make sure we understand, the vertex of this quadratic would be, it's the opposite of what's with x. So I see minus 1, so the x part of the vertex is positive 1, comma, same thing that's on the outside, negative 36.